Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the November 11th, 2025 regularly scheduled board meeting of the Richland 2 Board of Trustees to order. On behalf of the Richland 2 Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome you to our regular scheduled board meeting. As always, we are grateful for continued engagement and support of our students, families, staff, and community members. Before we begin this evening's meeting, I'd like to take a moment to honor and thank our veterans on this Veterans Day. We pause to recognize your courage, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication of those who have served our nation. Your commitment to protecting our freedom is an example of the service that inspires us all. Tonight, we look forward to conducting the important business of the district and working together to ensure we remain a stellar school district committed to excellence in education. We appreciate your presence and participation for all in person and online, and we thank you for joining us this evening. If you would now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the agenda for tonight's meeting has been published and made available publicly. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Trapp?
I move to approve the agenda for the November 11th, 2025 regular board meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Mr. Trapp and seconded by Ms. Porter to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, Mr. Trapp, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, board members, please vote. Okay, the vote is 6 yes, 1 not present. The motion passes. Oh, yes, I must say, Ms. Washington is unable to join us this evening. She is not feeling well, her and her family, so we wish them a very speedy recovery, and she will be missed at tonight's meeting. All right, moving on to item 4.1. We will move to item 4.1, executive session. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair,
Dr. Elkin Scott.
I move to convene an executive session for the purpose of discussing student appeals, student admission requests into the district's adult education program, employment recommendations and certified releases, and receipt of legal advice regarding a property matter.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Dr. Elkin Scott and seconded by Mr. Dennis to go into executive session. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, Dr. Elkin Scott, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, board members, please vote. Okay, the vote is 6 yes, 1 not present. The motion passes. We will now enter into executive session. May I have a motion to end executive session?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Porter?
I move that we adjourn executive session at 6:29 and resume public session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made to end executive session at 6:29 by Ms. Porter and seconded by Mr. Trapp. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, is that correct on the screen, Ms. Porter? Yes. Okay, board members, please vote. Okay, the vote is 6 yes and 1 not present. The motion passes. I will say for anyone who wasn't here earlier, Ms. Washington is home sick, so we wish her and her family a speedy recovery, but she will be missed this evening. All right, moving on to item 5.1, inspirational moment. In recognition of Veterans Day, we will have two presentations this evening. The first will be from Ms. Kelsey Carter, Military Community Liaison for Richland 2, and the second will be the choir from Blythewood Middle. Ms. Carter.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Okay. I like to say I am not related to Miss Tanika Washington. All right. I am Jamel Washington, though. Okay? We're not related. First off, my name is Jamel Washington. I'm the Chapter 402 Commander of the Purple Heart here in Columbia, South Carolina. Did 20 years in the United States Army. I like to thank Richland School District for being the first school district in the nation to be a Purple Heart proclamation. Now, with that being said, we have a lot of other districts that's trying to follow suit. So y'all was the first. Y'all always gonna be saying y'all was the first to do it. Okay. I've been deployed many times, and one of my major deployments was in Iraq, and that is where I received my combat injury, and that's why I received the Purple Heart. If you want to know anything about the Purple Heart, she has put some information on your desk there that tells about our Purple Heart and how you can receive the Purple Heart and where it originated from. It's one of the oldest awards in the United States military. And once again, I say thank y'all for everything y'all doing, because the children are the foundation, because we have to continue to let them know about the military and what we do, and not just what they see on YouTube and all these videos, actually hear from somebody that actually been through it, okay? So once again, thank y'all. Oh, I forgot, I'm sorry, this is Champ, this is my service dog, Champ. I'm sorry.
I'm John Testruth. I spent 20 years in the military. I've had 5 deployments. We work a lot with the school boards, with junior ROTC, and I'll tell you a little story that happened to me one time. I gave a junior ROTC cadet Purple Heart coin from my own collection, and about 2 years later, I walked into Wendy's, went up and ordered a sandwich, and she came up and she says, "You don't remember me?" I said, "No, not right offhand." She said, 2 years ago, you gave me a leadership award. I said, "What high school?" And she said, "Lexington County." And I said, "Well, the only time I go up to Lexington is for the junior ROTC program." She said, "You also gave me a Purple Heart coin." She pulled the coin out of her pocket. So we do make to the young kids, we do, when we talk to them, they do listen. And I'm proud to be working with junior ROTC, and I hope we keep up and start doing the program over here also.
My name is Frank Kmetz. I joined the United States Navy back in the middle of 1967. And I hate to count those years back then, but I went into, in talking to the recruiter, I signed up for computer programming skills, which I had just gone to a year's commercial course for, and of course, they'd made me a Navy hospital corpsman. So, you know, it's quite a shift, but I've never regretted it. My first duty station was the old military hospital down in Millington, Tennessee, which is just outside of Memphis. It's no longer there. And my second duty station basically was Vietnam. I was assigned to the Fleet Marine forces with the Marines. I did approximately 9 months in Vietnam. I was wounded 2 days before Christmas. Woke up Christmas Eve on the USS Repose, and I couldn't see, but I could see red, and I knew it was either the devil or Santa Claus. So, thank heavens, they gave me a ditty bag, and which is a little shaver and soap and all that kind of crap. With the small story like John has, a year before when I was in Memphis, it was Christmas. I had no family, so I volunteered to work over Christmas for those patients that couldn't go home. I took care of one Navy nurse there at the hospital, and exactly 1 year later, she was my charge nurse on the intensive care on the USS Repose. I couldn't see her, but she recognized me. I mean, how she could, remember somebody a year later. One of the senior corpsmen there was one of my fellow core school students that I went through almost 2 years prior. He and I went to same school, so it was just a very small community. I came back to Great Lakes Hospital. I spent about 4 months in the hospital and was put on limited duty. When I was able to get up and around, I was assigned to the emergency room as senior corpsman because I had the experience, and I was about ready to sign up. My chief told me, "Why don't you hold off, Frank?" And sure enough, about 2 weeks later, I got a word from Washington that I was getting a medical discharge. So I put in 3 years and 9 months, but never regretted it. Can always use that military, not that military, but the hospital experience and working with, taking care of people and taking care of yourself a little bit sometimes, but thank you.
Good evening. I'm Forrest Steglin. I live just down the road in Spring Valley subdivision, so I'm not far from here. I've served 5 years in the Air Force. I was commissioned had a commitment, 5-year commitment after graduating from college at the time when many people were being part of the lottery draft. My short story is personal from the standpoint, my number came up 13, which means that I would have been the 13th person in my county to go, and it was going to be in the Army, and I said, no, I'm staying. I didn't think this 6'6" frame could hide very well. So I was in the Air Force. I flew B-52s for 5 years, credited with Cold War as well as Vietnam War. My flying days ended when I got shot down over Hanoi. Came within very short distance of being a POW. That's my story.
Okay, my name is Lucas Grant. Of course, I didn't enlist, but I got drafted right after high school, matter of fact. So I knew I was going in the military, and I was proud of it. I mean, a lot of people didn't want me to go. My mother didn't want me to go, and her sister didn't want me to go, but I said, I'm going, because I was the only child at the time, but I didn't know my mother was pregnant at that time. But anyway, in the old days, the mother usually takes their sons to the train station or wherever they have to go. So my mom accompanied me there to, at Fort Hamilton at the time. And at that time, we went through some training, which was rough. And when I got in Vietnam in the early 60s, I thank God that these men did their job. They got on me. When I do something wrong, they make me hit the ground, and they make me crawl with the M14 in my arm. So I learned it. So when I got in Vietnam, I became a team leader, in charge. I was the first air cav. Matter of fact, special team. I mean, every time a military run into a problem, no matter what division there is, they call it air cav. Everybody loved air cav because air cav there to rescue them. So I got an L medal, matter of fact, because of that. And not only that, I encourage a lot of young people too about the military, what the military is about, change your life. When you become a civilian, you get promoted. Like I was in the South Carolina law enforcement. I made lieutenant in no time, very quickly. And matter of fact, all people I lock up so many people in South Carolina, man, you won't believe. They told me they're glad when I retire. I mean, I can see why, because so many crimes being committed in Columbia and other states as well. So that was my job of doing that, in not only in the military, but encourage young people. I also worked for Richland 1 school district. I was over 65 schools as a captain. And what I did is, I encourage young people, and I don't have to talk to the elementary school, because when they see me sitting down doing paperwork, I go to different school, one school to the next. When I sit down, all the young people come around and surround me, and they start asking questions, which I don't mind. And kids, I adopted a little girl. She was getting problems in school, so I had adopted her. And every time I come to that school, her friend says, he's here. And she run and she meet me, and says, so we talk and talk. Her way changed, and the reason why I got in that, she had a problem. And that problem was she kept getting in a fight every time, and teachers spraying her hand. So administration got in contact with me. She said, can you do something? I said, I certainly can. And she changed. So the military got a lot of things for my life. I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for the military. It wasn't for those brave men that come up to me and scream at me and make me get off the bus. And then if I do something wrong, matter of fact, if anybody is in their bed in the military, they's on the floor. If your bunk not make up and you training, everything is torn out. And if somebody messed up on the rifle range, everybody paid a punishment for it. But, I thank God for that. Even though when I was a little kid, I was scared like the devil, let me tell you. I was scared like the devil when that thing happened. But when I got into combat, and I see, oh, yeah, let me tell you my friend. I'm not going to keep y'all too long. And that was Colonel Moore. Colonel Moore, I'm sure some of y'all know him, but some of y'all may not know him. Colonel Moore was the first air cav, and I was in the air cav also. He was the first air cav American that fought in Vietnam War. He's the first person there. After the French got defeated, American came in. Colonel Moore was the first one. So they got Colonel Moore. He went in. He was a full-bird colonel when he left. He came as a light colonel when he came in. So anyway, what he said, he told him and his man, he said, when he get off the chopper, he's going to be the first person that touched the ground. And when he leave, he could be the last person that touched that ground. Even though there was unnumbered 10 enemy against one. Now that's a lot. Colonel Moore wiped them out. Every single one of them, love. Even though headquarters called him, said he got to leave, he said, no, I refuse to leave. I will be here with my man. And I always learned that. Even when I was a team leader, I had the same thing in my mind. And that same thing gave me the armed commendation of heroism in combat. Because I refuse, I treat my man like family. If they suffer, I'm going to suffer. If they die, I'm going to die on that. That's the way I was thinking. But one thing, I think Colonel Moore and other heroes, General Custer worked for not air cav, but cavalry. So that kind of detached Custer a long time ago. So that's a lot of history. And another thing, too. Yeah, I know. They got a meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you.
Come on. You can come back and tell the stories to our students.
Yeah. Come on. Okay.
Thank you so much. Sir, you remind me of my dad. He's a pastor, and he would have like 3 or 4 closings. It always did get better every time. But we didn't get out till almost 6 o'clock on a Sunday. But thank you all so much. Will all of our veterans stand as you are able to be recognized? Thank you all.
The Blythewood Middle School Chorus Program, under the direction of Miss Karishma Tondon, and Orchestra Program, under the direction of Miss Carson Combs, are pleased to have a group of their students perform the national anthem as tonight's inspirational moment. Ms. Tondon and Ms. Combs and their students hope this performance honors the veterans who have served to bring about peace and prosperity for their families, friends, neighbors, and fellow Americans. Thank you for your service.
Okay, we are now going to recess, and if you all will join us in the lobby for the presentation from Blythewood Middle School Chorus. We will now resume executive session. I just want to say, oh, I'm sorry, regular meeting. I'm not taking us back, you guys. We will now resume the regular portion of our board meeting. All right. So I just want to say thank you to all of our veterans, Ms. Carter, and to Blythewood Middle School Chorus for your participation this evening. Okay, now we will go to item 6.1, the consent agenda. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Trapp?
I move to approve the consent agenda for the November 11th, 2025 regular board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion's been made by Mr. Trapp and seconded by Ms. Porter oh, sorry. Oh, that was you, Ms. Williams. I'm sorry. Ms. Williams. The motion's been made by Mr. Trapp and seconded by Mr. Williams. Ms. Williams to continue, sorry. Oh, yeah. Is there any discussion? Sorry, I can't see you there. Okay. Ms. Williams, is that correct? Oh, Mr. Trapp, sorry. Mr. Trapp, is that correct? Yes. I got to clean my glasses, y'all. Okay. All right. Now we're back in business. All right. There being no discussion and that being correct, board members, please vote. The vote is 6 yes, 1 not present. The motion passes. Moving on to item 7.1, public participation. We have one person signed up to address the board. You will be given 3 minutes to address the board. To assist with timing, the lights on the table in front will change colors from green to yellow to red. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. When your time is up, the light will turn red, and you will hear an audible tone indicating your time to speak has expired. Before we begin, I will remind you that our meetings are streamed live and recorded. According to policy BEDH, comments from the public should not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive and vulgar language. The policy also prohibits in public session any expression of personal complaints about an individual, school personnel, or any other person connected with the school system. Specific student or personnel issues should be handled through the appropriate procedures as indicated in the district policy. Our person for this evening to speak is Julie Russell.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Moore, and Richland 2 district officials. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you tonight. My name is Julie Ann Russell. I'm the orchestra director at Blythewood High School. I'm in my 8th year of teaching at Blythewood, and I've taught in both Tennessee and Connecticut. I've been afforded the opportunity to meet a lot of you in the room already through various events that my students have played. But if you have not met me, something that you'll learn about me is that I love my job. I love it. I've known that I wanted to be a teacher since I was 15, and I fully believe that I was created by God to be a teacher in a classroom of orchestra, let's be clear. I was made to do what I do, and I get to do that every day in Richland 2. I hope to be able to speak on behalf of the amazing things that are happening in the orchestra world, and I just want to share a little bit of that joy that I have of teaching with you. And we just experienced some of that out in the hall as we heard some of the music programs from Blythewood Middle School, and they're just doing a great job. So tonight I want to talk about the South Carolina Music Educators Association. This is our state organization that stems from our national organization called NAFME. Our state is split into 5 regions, and Richland 2 is placed into Region 3 of our state. Each year, orchestra students in grades 6 through 12 are given an opportunity to audition for Region Orchestra. If accepted, they will have the opportunity to participate and perform in our Region Orchestra event, which usually takes place at the end of November. This event consists of 3 orchestras. Each orchestra has 72 members. There's a 6/8 one, a 9/10, and an 11/12. Students from all over Region 3 are invited to audition for this event. Over 500 students auditioned, and out of the 216 that are accepted, I'm proud to say that over 60 of those seats will be held by Richland 2 students. At this event, students will prepare concert repertoire under the baton of guest conductors from all over the southeastern U.S. There are concerts that we'll be having at Irmo High School. Lisa Rayner, the fine arts coordinator, will have invitations for anyone who would like to come. And then they'll have access to audition for All-State Orchestra, which will be held at Furman University in February. Numerous studies show the importance of arts education in our students' lives, and through these events, our students will continue gaining real-life experience as they work together as a team, demonstrate time management and organizational skills through the prep work that goes into learning music, and they'll gain a deeper understanding of personal discipline. In a world that's dominated by instant gratification through internet shopping, cell phone games, and the addictive nature of social media, our orchestra programs are helping strengthen the attributes of grit and resilience through hard work and dedication to learning an instrument. I've never met an adult who says, "I'm so glad I stopped playing the cello." I only meet adults who say, "I wish I had kept with it." So I'm excited to see what we do in the future here at Richland 2 and how we can continue challenging our students. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to item 8.0, voting on executive session items. The board will now vote on items discussed in executive session. Item 8.1, student appeals. May I have please have a motion regarding student appeals?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Dennis?
I move for students 1 and 2 to attend Blythewood Academy for 90 days.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Mr. Dennis and seconded by Mr. Trapp. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, we will just wait for the motion to appear on the screen. Mr. Dennis, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Board members, please vote. The vote is 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 not present. The motion passes. All right, moving on to item.
Madam Chair.
Sorry, you have another motion.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am, I have another motion. Madam Chair, I move to deny the appeal for student number 3.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Mr. Dennis and seconded by Mr. Trapp. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll just wait for that motion to appear on the screen. Mr. Dennis, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, board members, please vote. Okay, the motion is 6 yes, 1 not present. The motion passes. Okay, we will now move on to item 8.2, student admission request into the district's adult education program. May I please have a motion on the student admission request into the district's adult education program?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Trapp?
I move to accept the admission request into the district's adult education program for student number 1.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Mr. Trapp and seconded by Mr. Dennis. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, we will wait for that to appear on the screen. Okay, Mr. Trapp, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, board members, please vote. The vote is 6 yes, 1 not present. The motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 8.3, employment recommendations and certified releases. May I please have a motion regarding employment recommendations and certified releases?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Porter,
I move to approve the employment recommendations and certified releases as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Ms. Porter and seconded by Dr. Elkin Scott. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, we'll wait for that to, oh, there it is. Ms. Porter, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, board members, please vote. The vote is 6 yes, 1 not present. The motion passes. We will now move on to item 9.0, unfinished business, no action requested. Let's see. Okay, policy revision proposal, policy KF, community use of school facilities will be 9.1. This agenda item is in this section is a policy proposal on policy KF, community use of school facilities. Dr. Moore.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Dr. Marshalyn Franklin, our Deputy Superintendent, to come and present to the board. We're bringing this policy to the board based on board questions and the desire to look at the policy and make adjustments.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Madam Chair, members of the board, you will recall at the October 14th meeting, the board engaged in a robust conversation surrounding policy KF and its accompanying administrative rule, KFR, regarding community use of school facilities. Board members shared a variety of questions, insights, and suggestions, and so district administration has taken that information, and we have actually 2 things to share with you tonight. Matthew, if you would pull up the presentation first. And so we have a presentation that we believe responds to the discussion that the board had on the October 14th meeting. And then we also have a policy proposal, as well as sharing with you a draft of a revised administrative rule. Of course, the policy, actual policy would require action on the board at second reading. The administrative rule, while it doesn't require formal approval by the board, we wanted you to see the alignment between the 2 documents. And so we'll start with the presentation. Of course, our board has elected to allow district administration to rent school facilities. The law says that you may do it, but does not say that you must. But as good stewards of our of the public and the public funds, we, as a district, as a school board, elect to allow our facilities to be used by members of the public.
Good evening. As you can see, one of the questions we had, as Dr. Franklin mentioned during the first reading, was what our current facility rentals rates are. And so on the screen in front of you and on the district website, we have our current rental rates. All of this is there, along with the requirement for safety and security, which was previously set at 2 safety assistants per 50 attendees, and any gathering of more than 100 people requires a Richland County Sheriff's Deputy to be in attendance along with the safety assistants. Next slide. So it was also asked what our current fee waiver guidelines are. So this is what our Chief Financial Officer uses when organizations apply for waivers. They can do that as they reserve the facility in our Facilitron system online. They request at that time, and then it's determined and passed through our chief financial officer whether or not they meet these criterias. And you can see we go everything clear down to from a 100% fee waiver to a no fee waiver, depending on the different categories of organizations. And so now, just to help, I'm going to give a quick example of a youth organization that would be renting a high school stadium for about 6 hours with 150 attendees, and they require the use of a scoreboard. Next slide. So in this, based on our current fee charges, the stadium rental would be $250 per hour with a 2-hour minimum. For the time allotted with this organization, they would pay $1,500 for that. In addition to that, based on 150 attendees, there would be 3 safety monitors, which would come out to be $540, and then a scoreboard technician, which is at $50 an hour. Those 2 payments would go directly to pay for our district personnel to work those time periods. For the payment received for the stadium, you can see that 60% of that goes back to our schools, to our principal's general fund, or I'm sorry, the principal's discretionary fund, and then 40% is kept for the operating costs, for us to maintain the fields, the lights, and the scoreboard. And so that's what it would be with no fee waiver. If you go to the next slide, this is if the organization applied for a 50% fee waiver, and it was granted by our chief financial officer. So in this case, the stadium rental then goes down to $750. Of that, the school would receive $450 back, and then $300 would go towards our operating costs. Next slide. These are some examples of what our schools use that money for. So you can see we've got teacher and staff appreciation events and gifts, classroom supplies and resources, classroom equipment, honor roll celebrations, field studies, athletic uniforms and equipment, and special community events.
And I will add that we got this information through a poll of our high school principals, because our high school facilities are the most rented facilities in the district. And while not every school does everything on this list, this is just an example of how schools use how some of our schools use the fees. So for example, Ridgeview High School is the only school that noted that they use some of their facility fees to pay for AP exams. You'll recall last year was the first year that AP African American Studies was not on the state's course list, and so the students you approve this course as a local board approved course, and so students can still take the course. However, because it's not on the state's list, the state doesn't provide funding for taking the course. So one way that Ridgeview uses its fees is to pay for their students who take the course to also sit for the exam. And just as a side note, Ridgeview High School had 28 students last school year that took the course and sat for the exam and had a 100% pass rate.
Next slide. And so I'll give you a quick glance at our revenue from last year. Next grant. So we had 68 external rentals. So those are rentals outside of a district entity. Of that, $95,540 is what we made in revenue. We waived $32,559. So those are organizations that we gave a fee waiver to and did not charge 100% for them. Our staff labor during that time period was $46,595, and the schools received $36,517.50, and our operational costs were $24,345. Right on the far right is because we use an online booking system, that is the fee for that. That is taken out on top or right before we receive our revenue. So that's taken out in the system. It's nothing we have to pay back. It's just part of using of the system. Next slide. And just really some challenges that we've learned over the last couple of years is one of the biggest things is at athletic events, they will use our equipment. So they will use our scoreboards, they'll use our speakers. That requires that our technicians and folks be there. Auditorium events require lights and sound usually, so one of our AV technicians is on site. Many of the school principals require that their own personnel be there to unlock and lock to make sure everything is sound for the school when we have an external event. And all of these events, we require custodial coverage based on lessons learned. And as much as organizations promise that things will be cleaned up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's ready for school on the next school day. And so one of the things that we do is sometimes we do run into a staffing problem because we have to ask our staff to work on the weekends. And that's why those labor costs go straight back into paying that staff, is so that we can ensure that we have the right people there during those weekend events. And so with that.
Okay, Matthew, can you pull up the policy then? Thank you. All right, so in terms of some revisions we're proposing for the policy itself, on page 1, paragraph 2, we just suggest that we update some of the titles there. Everything else that you see is already in the policy. We don't recommend any changes. Towards the bottom of the page, there's an underlined sentence that gives additional guidance for principals. Go back up, Matthew, I'm sorry. There you go. And then we just inserted a section titled Terms of Use, but the information under that is the same as what's in the current policy. Then on the second page, we have just some editorial changes that we recommend, but then you'll also see a large block of text that's highlighted in yellow. Our recommendation is that because that content is procedural in nature, that we move it from the policy to the administrative rule. And you'll see that on pages 2 as well as page 3. And so I'm recommending that we just do away with that content. We just recommend that it be moved to the administrative rule. Mr. Will Anderson is going to come and review the administrative rule, and you'll see the correlation between what's being recommended that we remove from the policy in the document that he presents.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin. And Matthew, I think you got it. Yep. So as you can see, this had not been changed since July of 2003. So a lot of these procedures that we have done were not in the administrative rules. So, and they dealt primarily with the district auditorium. So all of that has been removed. It was not relevant and has been taken out. Once you get to, Matthew's going to continue to go on, I believe, page 3. Yes, thank you. The first part just describes more in detail about the policy, gives more detail about the process of using the online facility rental system, how many days you're supposed to use it. It talks more about the approval process and kind of what happens so that people understand what they're supposed to do. It also gives talks about the misuse of the facility and what happens there. It also then on the first of the next parts talks about our insurance, that you are required to have insurance, and that you can also purchase insurance through Facilitron. This talks about goes in more detail about the facility fee schedule and what fees are associated and what you may be charged depending on your event. The fees are listed on the web page. We do not list the fees in the administrative rule, but the fees are on the web page, and it explains the process for each, the safety, security, custodial, other staff coverage, and if you're using the district stadium and athletic areas, auditorium and theaters, and kitchen facilities. Really goes into more detail about those have different, I think Siri's talking to me, I think have different different fees and different things depending on those. You can see the next part is we've simplified tremendously the fee waiver, as you saw from Mr. Hutton. It was a one page of a lot of different fee waivers. What we've heard and what we've discovered is it's to try to simplify this to basically either full fee waiver or a half a fee waiver. And the real change is that if you are not charging for an event and you don't charge for participation, and if you're, say, just an entity that has no relation to Richland 2, we will recommend a 50% waiver. Same first two, but you are affiliated with Richland School District 2, 100% fee waivers. And then it gives you some examples of organizations that may qualify for fee reductions. And then the last page and a half is really about proper treatment. So some of the information that was on the policy that we took out is really stated here on the proper treatment, from anything from, the obvious no drugs, alcohol, tobacco, to you can't use fireworks, to you can't use open flames, and basically, and then it goes into the partisan political advertisements, which is, it's covered in another policy as well. The other thing I failed to mention is on the last page, the last part under the fee waivers is that we do not charge, and this is per state law, for polling places or for voter registration. And with that, that was a lot of information between the three of us. We are happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. Dr. Moore?
Thank you. Board, we'll open it up now for questions.
Okay, you guys did move with such precision. Great job. All right, board members?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Dr. Elkins-Scott.
I have a question. I know we said we do not charge for voting precincts or poll, but we do charge for the custodial staff, correct?
That's correct.
So is that something that we can consider adding to that, so it will be no confusion to the public?
So there is no charge that comes back, ma'am, to the district. That money goes straight to Service Solutions, the custodians. So we can look to tweak the language, but that money does not pass through the district's hands.
Right, but I just want to make sure that no one's confused out there, because I know one time before we had an issue with them saying that we would not allow that, and we were allowing that. We just want to make sure that they knew that they had to cover for the custodial staff.
Okay.
So if it's possible, if not, don't worry about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Oh, Ms. Porter?
My question was about those receiving the waiver for our student groups, if it benefits our students. And then there's other language that says if they have to pay for participation. So my concern is some of our student groups, our athletic groups they pay for participation, but the participation does not go for anyone to make a profit. That participation may pay for their tournaments that they compete in outside of Richland 2, or their uniforms and so forth. But it is students that live in this community that want to practice using our fields. For example, like our AAU track team or AAU teams that want to use facilities to practice. Whereas no one's being charged to come to their practice, but they are part of a club. And it does benefit them, and they practice on a weekly schedule. Whereas that $1,000 for a practice would be impossible for them with the little bit that they pay to participate in tournaments. So would they qualify for a reduction or no? Because
I think right now the answer would be no, they would not qualify for a fee waiver. Part of this is going into state law, the state law that's referenced in the bottom of the policy about and we can reference that. That was 59-19-125, and it talks about what you can lease property for. So I think what we start getting into is for private purposes. While yes, they are benefiting Richland 2 students participate in AAU, participate in those. This entity is, in essence, they're a private entity that if you think about it, regardless of what the event may be, it could be anything. They're now using public resources and public dollars for their private event. And that's how that's what the law, but so that's, again, that would be a question we'd have to get some more answers from. But to your question, the way it's written now, the answer would be no.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Dennis?
Yeah, so that same question, yeah, we need to look into that, definitely, because if it's benefiting our students in a certain way that our colleague talked about, I see the law in a different light with that. So we definitely need to kind of figure that out. And I think overall, this addresses a lot of the other concerns for the community. So I think we're pretty good there. But I will say this, if we're sitting up here and we're advocating for ease of public use of our facilities, we got to make sure, and people out there that are listening, make sure that we're doing the right thing and not getting out of hand and things like that, because that makes it harder on us to do this. The only other thing that just came up to me is the voting at schools. I know during the presidential and gubernatorial years, we're normally not in school. So it's hard for me personally to think that when I look at using our schools to vote in, if it's during a normal day and our students are there, we got parents coming in and out along with voting at the same time. So that could pose a lot of safety issues. So I think maybe we should look at still allowing it, but make it specifically say during the 2 years when we're not in school. I don't know how to really go about that. That's kind of how I see it. I think we need to use it, but maybe we have other facilities that do not house students that they can use to vote in. I don't know. I just don't like the idea of just letting a bunch of people come into our schools. It's in today's age.
Yes, sir. And we can definitely look at language. Right now, the language matches the law. If I can, the last election we just had just a week or so ago, we were able to work with Richland County's election office and really deconflict that, because they knew that there were students in there. And so we can look at the language, but we are actively engaged with them when we are in session versus those times when we're not in session.
Okay, then that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. We will now move on. Oh, sorry, Ms. Porter, sorry. Ms. Porter.
There was one thing that I had asked for the last time this came up, and that was the cost of opening a facility for those who are renting. So I see that we have the labor, and then operational costs. It's just not broken down. Like I don't see. I'm trying to be able to have the reasoning. When someone asks you, why is it that it costs $500 for an hour practice? I want to be able to say it costs $500 for your 25 kids to run around the track to pay for this. And I just don't see that. It's hard to explain that and speak to those who are supportive of our district and have kids in our district and contribute to our district. But there's some operational costs that just don't add up. And I was looking for some data to be able to support that, especially if it doesn't include a security guard and all of those other things, because $500 to $800 for a practice is a lot.
Yes, ma'am. The best way I can explain the operating costs as they are right now is that it's a historical average of what we've paid for utilities, and I'll use a football field, for example, or a practice field where we've had to reseed and go in over time. We can try to break that down and further, but for example, at home, you're still going to pay for your lights for power to come to your house. Your meter's going to run a little bit longer when the power's on. It's hard for us to gauge exactly when that meter's running faster unless we've got somebody staring at that meter right then. And so what we have tried to do is we have taken these operational costs over time and made sure that we get them as low as we can without impacting our own day-to-day school operations budget. We did do research with Lexington school districts, Lexridge 5 and Richland School District 1, who just actually lowered their costs. We are still the cheapest district in the Midlands right now for rental fees.
Even for community use with kids, you've collected that data?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then another thing is to think about, as if you come up with anything else, is when community members drive past a stadium and see the lights on and power being used and no one using the field. So these are the things that people would say, you're charging $500 for the practice and you have an empty field that has things turned on. Or,
Yes, ma'am. I hope they call us right away so I can get somebody over there to turn those off.
be careful what you ask for. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, is it possible, you guys, for what Ms. Porter was saying, even if you're not breaking down the cost, that you could do like maybe like an asterisk and say, these are examples of what those costs cover? Is that something possible on the site? It doesn't have to be
Yes, ma'am.
explained, breaking down, but just to give people an idea.
What's
Would that work
included
for
in the
you?
operational costs? We can
Yes,
very
perfect.
easily
Would that
do
be amenable? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr.
I got
Dennis.
one last thing. Using this, I know we're looking at the community use, but the best way that I can try to get across what I'm looking for with this is our booster clubs for our sports, our band. How can they use the facilities that they're maintaining, that they're cleaning up, that they're doing? Because they take pride in their facilities. How can they use that to bolster their pocketbook to make money in the booster club? Because I know a lot of teams, a lot of bands, they use those facilities to, have little events that do charge for people to come in, and that money goes directly back to the booster club if they're doing it. I just don't see anything like that in here. I know that it goes back to the school, but if a boosters club's really trying to like put on a,
If we could
like,
go,
pick
can we-
up.
Can we go back to the waiver slide, the current waiver slide in the new AR?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand that.
So I believe what you would be describing right there is that would meet the criteria for a 50% rental fee waiver. So they would still be able to take what they're earning back into their organization, say a booster club, sir, we would get the bare minimum to pay for the operational costs and pay for those that are supporting. So they would immediately meet the 50% waiver requirement because they are tied to the district.
Okay, I kind of see, I see how that's working. But also, if like, let's say if they use, let's take Spring Valley's football field, for example. Let's say they use that facility, but they're not using the field. They just need the concession stand open so they can pass out whatever they got to other students, because it's more of a student type thing, because a lot of students going to come in, some community members coming in. Like, is there a separate rental for that versus the whole area?
I think what we're missing is, and again, this is our first draft, so we're missing the fundraising piece. As I was rereading this, I think that is where, because you're 100% correct. A lot of our organizations, especially those, do fundraisers. They do charge, they do those things because that's going directly in there. So we're missing in our new rule the fundraising piece. So we will draft that. Again, you don't technically, and help me if I'm wrong, Dr. Franklin, you're voting on the policy. You don't have to technically, is that correct? So I don't think the policy will definitely change for first and second reading, but we will, as for next time, make sure we add that about fundraising for your look at. So I think we're definitely missing that piece.
Last thing. And we have reached out to our athletic directors and band directors to see if they have any input for this, correct? To see if they have any ideas or anything that would help with the policy?
No, we did not, because remember, the school gets 60% of the proceeds.
Right.
And so when we're looking at charging other organizations, they like it to stay like it is because they get the benefit of it on the end.
Right. But
And
what I'm saying is, like,
revisit the
to
fundraising
ensure
part.
that the programs, like the BASH and things like that, to ensure that things like that are going, or if they have an ex-alumni that is now an NFL star and they're wanting to come do something for that school, and it's benefiting that athletic department directly, and it's not in season, but it's benefiting them directly. Like, is there a separate way than charging that guy, let's say an NFL player now, $2,000 that he's doing with the people at that school in that community? I mean, I think there's so much here to unpack. I think I'm just gonna have to write a long email.
We welcome your long
Because
email.
there's just a lot, me being involved in sports and other things like that, and talking to athletic directors, not just in our district, but other districts, and band directors. There's so much that they kind of want that helps them along the way, but it would also allow them to keep that money that's coming into their school,
right.
but it would allow them to do a few other things locally at the school as well.
All right.
So
we welcome
I will-
your feedback.
Yeah,
as,
I will get an email out. Give me about 2 days. I'm going to talk to another athletic director that I know of out of district and kind of get an idea to how to draft that.
All right, thank you.
So everybody send your emails to me and I'll send one group email. That, okay? So that we don't, yeah, send it to me so that we don't have a double up on questions. Is that okay? All right? Okay, thank you. All right, and then I will send y'all a triple long email. I'm just kidding, just kidding. Am I, guys? Okay, all right, we're moving on to item, looks like we're at 10.0. So we will now move to item 10.1, new business action requested. 10.1, proposed South Carolina School Board Association resolutions. I didn't ask before, are there any that anybody wants to take out? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
there's some in here that concern me, but overall, I don't see it as a big impact because majority, however this board would vote, no matter what, since I'm one of the persons that's going to the legislative thing, I would still uphold that vote because it's a democratic process. There's just a few that I personally don't agree with, and I just wanted to let that be known. 10, 11, 18, 22, 29, and 31. Those I don't personally agree with.
Oh, it was, I actually have a similar one.
10,
10, oh, yeah.
11, 18, 22, 29, and 31. I didn't feel like there was a lot of, there just needs to be a lot of work on those before I would be able to support them totally on my own.
And I had several in there too that are much like that, but do you all want to go ahead and, you don't want to take them, do you want to vote first or do you want to take them out? How do
No,
you
I
want-
don't want to take them out.
Okay, so we're going to go just vote then? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll just vote on the slate and
Okay.
go from there.
All right, well, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Porter?
I move to support the South Carolina School Boards Association's proposed resolutions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Ms. Porter and seconded by Ms. Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, is that correct, Ms. Porter?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, okay, board members, please vote. Okay, the vote is 4 yes, 2 no, and 1 not present. The motion passes. All right, we will now move on to item 10.2, approval of committee structure revision and of new committee. And so just to give a little context to this, we voted to do committees a while back, and then we started doing some work, and the consultant that we've been working with took a look at where we were and suggested that we make these changes. So may I please have a motion regarding the approval of a committee structure revision and addition of a new committee?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Williams?
I move that the existing Strategic Planning Committee and the Policy Committee be merged into a single committee to be known as the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee, and that we establish an additional committee, the Academics Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Ms. Williams and seconded by Ms. Porter. Is there any discussion?
Yes. What's the purpose of the Academics Committee, and what would that consist of?
So one of the things that when we discussed with Mr. Simmons is that he was saying that our strategic plan and our policy should go along together because those two things work hand in hand as far as it pertains to looking at in collaboration with administration on policy changes that would affect the strategic plan. And then with academics, it would be looking at things like working in collaboration with administration on anything having to do with policies that may affect that. Also, part of things like curriculum, things of that nature were something separate. How do we improve in certain areas? Working with the administration on that.
Do we not already have a committee that ties into academics?
No.
So, Dr. Moore, we don't have anything that ties into?
Not at the board level, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Board members, please vote. If that's correct, by the way. Okay. All right. Board members, please vote. Okay, the vote is 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 not present. The motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 11.0, new business, no action requested. We will now move to item 11.1, new business, no action requested. And this is going to be the first quarter financial report. In this agenda item is in this section is the first quarter financial report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As our Senior Chief Financial Officer comes up to present our first quarter financial report, I just would like to remind the public that you're going to see a lot of information that has been already shared in our monthly report. However, Ms. Williams will be pulling all of that information together and providing additional information for the quarterly report. And with that, Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Moore. I stand before you to present the first quarter financial report for the first quarter ending September 30th, 2025. Oh, it's tiny. Thank you. As Dr. Moore has already said, the first 9 or so pages of this document resembles the information that Dr. Moore presents every month for the general fund update, but I will go back to that first slide because it does provide information as of September 30th. The last report would have been as of the end of August. So when we are, and as we get to the last few pages, don't slide yet, but as we get to the last few pages of this report, it'll go into the other funds since we're reporting everything at the end of the first quarter. And so as it relates to local property tax revenue, we've received $11,812,937, or 8.8% of our anticipated revenue for the year. When you consider revenue from interest and other sources like facility rentals, we've received $12,597,134, or 6.3% of our anticipated local revenue. As we go down a little further, and we, as it relates to revenue from our state sources, we have received $39,353,357, or 24% of our anticipated revenue for the year. When you consider transfers from EIA to the general fund for our state aid to classrooms appropriation and indirect cost transfers from our federal grants, we've received $7,642,933 at the end of September, which is about 24.4% of our anticipated revenue. So when you look at all of the sources in the general fund altogether, combined, we've received a total of $59,593,424, or 14.3% of the budgeted revenue for the year. And so that's what you see right there in the middle of the page. We've expended $72,791,934, or 17.5% of the general fund budget expenditures through the end of September. So as you can see, we spent more than the actual revenue that we brought in during the first quarter. And it's really the timing of revenue collections doesn't always coincide with our expenditure needs. So on this slide, the chart, of course, tracks the revenue received through September to the first quarters in the past 2 fiscal years. State revenue is fairly consistent from year to year at around 24% by the end of the first quarter. And as you can see, there's a little more fluctuations in the local revenue and transfers lines. So this chart tracks expenditures through September across all the various categories, again, over a 3-year period. Spending on salaries and utilities is a little higher than they were this time last year, to kind of be expected. And then across all categories, at the end of the first quarter, we've spent about 2% less than this time last year, and about 1% less than the year before that. And of course, as you're aware, districts are required to report monthly fund balance numbers to the South Carolina Department of Education. And if you scroll down, you'll notice that in September, our fund balance is calculated to be $102,383,468, which represents 25% of the general fund budget and equates to approximately 3 months' worth of expenditures. Okay, and so this chart provides total fund balance as a percentage of our general fund budget over a 4-year period. As reported last month, our fund balance is lowest around October and November, and it's the highest in the 3rd quarter after property tax revenues are received. So, of course, adequate fund balance helps us with rainy days. It helps us in those months when the revenue doesn't come in at the same level to coincide with our expenditure needs. And just as a requirement, state law requires a 1 month, at a minimum 1 month of expenditures in fund balance, which equates to about $35 million. GFO best practices, as well as our board policy, requires 2 months, which equates to about $70 million. And our bond rating agencies require at least 2.4 months, which equates to about $84 million. Okay? So within the total fund balance numbers that we just discussed on the previous slide, we have, again, assigned fund balance, unassigned, and non-spendable. When we talk about non-spendable, that's the things that we cannot spend because we've essentially, they're booked as an asset because we've already, spent them, like insurance premiums for the year or software licenses and things of that nature. And then, of course, the assigned fund balance is the stuff that you've already designated for a specific purpose, like the $11.5 million for capital projects that was discussed during the budget cycle last year. Whew, this one's rough. So as it relates to property tax collections, the property tax revenue presented on this page for the month of September, we've received $3,472,125 from the county treasurer for property taxes in September, and a total of $11,812,937 so far year-to-date, as of the end of the first quarter. Okay. So, as it relates to the general fund, our current investments accounts are listed as well as the balances at the end of the first quarter. We've received approximately 39% of budgeted interest revenue for the year, and that's reflected there in the middle of the page. Okay, so the next one, in addition to our general fund LGIP account, we also have an LGIP building account, food service, and pupil activity. And so at the end of the first quarter, we'd received $463,617 in interest on those accounts so far this fiscal year. And just for clarification, all of the revenue that comes to us from the state or from the county flow through that LGIP account. And then we frequently transfer that out of LGIP into our normal checking account, if you will, so that we can pay operational costs, salaries, utilities, and the like. Okay, and so with this one, I draw your attention to this page, which provides revenues, expenditures, and encumbrances for all of our special revenue funds. Any fund that begins with a 2 or a 6 is federal, and the federal funds that flow through the South Carolina Department of Education are on a reimbursement basis. So you will see in some instances where expenditures are more than the actual revenue we received. The 700s, and then the 700 funds are our school pupil activity funds, and then our 900s are restricted grants from the state. Okay. Then we have our EIA funds, which are allocated through the South Carolina Department of Education. Some of these payments are one-time payments. Some of them are spread throughout the year, but they may start at various times. You may have some that don't start until October. Some may start in December. It just depends. On this particular slide, you will notice like Fund 377, for instance, teacher supplies. It has a negative balance of $110,000 at this point in the year, but we will receive additional funds from the State Department of Education, normally around January, for additional teacher supply funding after they've done the November reconciliation. Okay, and then this slide gives you the breakdown of all source of capital funds available at the end of the first quarter, which includes 8% issuance, the remaining bond referendum funding, and then funds that have been transferred at the end of the year from like the general fund to the capital projects funds. And those kind of are indicated in Fund 521 and Fund 532. You'll see total revenue of $95,543,107, and after expenditures to date and outstanding purchase orders, there is $26,231,359 available. And then this last slide is, of course, your budget, the $591,486 budget, with expenditures at the end of the first quarter of $119,710 and available balance of $471,776. With that, turn it back over to Superintendent for any comments.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Board, at this time, we'll open it up for any questions that you may have.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Dennis?
Thank you very much. Very thorough. I enjoyed it because I like numbers, so I enjoyed it. But are we seeing any issues with the federal government shutdown right now for us that's really concerning? Because they just passed, they just passed us getting rid, but it's coming again in January. So I want to make sure that when we're advocating, I need to know what to advocate for.
We're not seeing, let me say this differently. You know, we haven't received any impact aid funding yet.
Okay.
So we know that at some point, we hope to, but we haven't yet. And then we just hear a lot of talk of what could happen. But
Okay.
as far as anything else, we haven't seen a delay in any reimbursements. We've just heard talk, but nothing,
Okay.
nothing concrete.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. If there are no more questions, we will now move on to 11.2, Proposal 2026 Board Meeting Schedule. The agenda item in this section is Proposed 2026 Board Meeting Schedule. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So today we're going to look at the board schedule for the 2026 school year. As we are required by state statute, we must, the board must approve a board meeting schedule, and we have to have that board meeting schedule published so the public knows when the board will be meeting. And so before you, you have a draft of the schedule that is also up on the screen. Please note that this schedule includes board workshops, which would be 3 workshops and 1 board retreat. There is one question that we need the board's decision on, and that is the first meeting in April. And so right now, we do not have a date. We normally meet on the Tuesday and the second week and the fourth week, but due to travel conflicts for several board members, that second week in April may not be feasible. So with that, we'll turn it over to.
Okay. All right. Board members, do you have any questions? I guess for clarity, that one, would need to decide on that 1 week in April. I know a lot of people have expressed interest in going to the AI conference that is going to be happening in San Diego. And so that one, it goes from that, I believe it is the 12th through the 15th. So it would be that Tuesday, the 14th would be the day that, so does anybody, Ms. Porter?
Madam Chair? Oh, absolutely.
How many board members would that even conflict with? Because we've had meetings where others have had to go
Yeah,
to things.
I think
and
there's like 2 or 3 of us. I don't know if everybody's confirmed, but I know that people expressed interest in the meeting that we had, but definitely 2 of us I know are going. Sorry, Chanidra, so do you know how many so far have said? Is it just 2 of us confirmed? Okay, so then 2. Oh, and the superintendent is going to that AI conference as well. Yes, sorry, I forgot about that, yes.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
If it's only 2 board members going, that leaves 5 board members and a deputy superintendent. So why would we change a meeting for that?
That's totally up to y'all. I mean, that's fine. If you would like to keep it the same date, that's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure that I gave everybody an opportunity to be able to go either way.
I mean, do we know for sure if anyone else is going to join?
That's the thing is,
before
I
we
don't
make-
know. I don't know. That's what I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is going to go, because I think a lot of people are still trying to decide on their funds of which things they're going to plan on attending next year. But I wanted to put it out there because I don't want it to, us to not do it, and then somebody wanted to go, because it
Well-
is a different conference than the ones we've normally went to.
Well, maybe
Oh.
just to be on the safe side, maybe.
I'm sorry, Dr. Scott?
Oh, I was just going to say, just to be on the safe side, since it's a board workshop and it starts at 2:30, we probably would just have to change that date maybe to the first Tuesday.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody else? Oh, it's spring
Because
break. Is that going to
break
mess
is-
y'all up?
that's spring break
Yeah,
week,
it is
right?
spring break.
Is the week before.
So can we just not postpone the board workshop until that Thursday of that week, or
Yeah,
maybe
that works for me.
possible.
Does that work for
if
anybody
that-
else? Good
Just to
suggestion.
keep it in that same week,
Are
maybe.
y'all okay with that? That Thursday instead? So we normally have like
The second Tuesday in the month of April is a board meeting
Mhm.
and a workshop that starts prior to the board meeting.
Right, but it start prior to the board
I see what you're
meeting.
saying.
Yes.
So just keep the board meeting and then separate out the workshop. Is that correct?
No, it
Okay.
falls on the same day, correct?
Right.
So we'll just come in earlier, so why can't we just
push it to Thursday.
push it to Thursday, and we'll
Okay.
still have that week?
Are y'all okay with that? Yeah, so the board
Yes.
meeting that week would be on a Thursday.
Yes,
No, it just says that we have to have so many
as long as
meetings
you vote and.
per year.
have-
Is that right?
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Yeah. Does that work for y'all? Yes.
That date would be April 16th of 2026.
Instead of
We'll
the
make sure the
14th.
facility is available.
Okay, so we're going to put it for the 16th. And all board members, if you do plan to attend, I think it's getting down to the wire, is that correct? So if you are planning to attend, it is a different conference than we've attended before in the past. And there are also some grant opportunities involved, apparently. Ms. Porter?
I want to make one more suggestion.
Okay.
Possibly moving it to the Tuesday on the 21st and have them, no, I was going to say, because we know we won't conflict with the facility.
Well, we have first choice of a facility, but if we move it to the 21st, that's a completely, so you're saying the workshop and the board meeting for the 21st?
It's a question.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
okay with that.
go ahead, Dr. Franklin.
Okay, it would make a tight turnaround, because
Yes.
first reading of the
Oh.
budget would be the 28th of April.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so then that Thursday, the 16th, does that work for everybody? Okay, and then again, if you are going to attend that conference, you have to let them know soon, because they're going to start, it gets more expensive the later you wait. So everybody, if you could take a look at it. There was something in the board brief about it as well a couple of times, but just, if there was one to attend, it seems like it's going to be a really good one, so. All right, okay, well then, so then, can I get a motion for that with that change? Oh, it's no action requested? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, we vote in December, never mind. Okay, so never mind on that. Now we're going to, item 11.3, update instructional plan 2025-2026. This agenda item in this section is an update regarding the 2025-2026 instructional plan. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we shared at the last board meeting when we gave our update on our academic progress, we told the board we will be sharing our instructional plan, and so that is what we will be presenting tonight. So I'm going to ask that Mrs. Jennifer Morrison, our Senior Chief Academic Officer, and Dr. Jennifer Coleman, the Executive Director of Accountability, as well as their backup singers, Dr. Davis and Mr. Newton, to come and make this presentation. We stole that from Dr. Franklin, the backup singers.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. So we're very pleased to present a first update on our instructional plan. The plan was published last week in the board brief, and we won't necessarily be going through that document here. We're really, when we do these updates, we want to focus on the systems that are monitoring that plan. So we have 3 systems that monitor our instructional plan. This happened last year, it continues to happen this year. First, we have observations and feedback that we do with classrooms all across the district as a district team. Second, we have a formative assessment system, and that is what we're going to be talking through some data results tonight. And then finally, we have our continuous improvement meetings that we hold with schools on a regular basis. For example, Dr. Moore and I were at Condor Elementary's data meeting this morning, and it was fabulous. The team is really making some good moves, and we expect to see some really good results this year. So when it comes to formative assessment, this will be our first one, so we can certainly tweak as we go along. Our goal is to be transparent, but make sure there's clarity for you all, especially in this first session. There are 3 formative assessments that we use in Richland 2. And first, it's important to know why we use these 3. So to make instructional decisions, you have to have 2 kinds of data at minimum. First, you have to know if your students are growing. And 2, you have to know if they're meeting the criteria that we've set for them, which would be the standards. And those can be 2 different things. And then there are other things that we have to know about culture and what our students need and their demographics and pieces like that. Our formative assessment is focused on getting those 2 kinds of data to teachers, to principals, and to district staff so instructional decisions can be made. Some assessments are more closely correlated to how students will perform on SE Ready, and some not as much. But remember, you need both kinds of data to make really good decisions. And so, we'll be talking about our 3 formative assessments. We're piloting DRC Beacon in the district, and we're also using that as our required kindergarten assessment. Measures of academic progress put out by NWEA is a nationally normed assessment that really does a good job measuring growth. And then we use TE21, so that's the company. They're called Mastery View benchmarks, but we use theirs, and those are also a required state assessment. We have to give a formative assessment, and that's the required one. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Coleman, and she's going to walk us through some of the data that we have for all 3 assessments at this first update.
Good evening. Before I begin, I just want to remind everybody that the intent of formative assessments are meant to be a tool for district office and for schools to gauge instructional effectiveness. And it also really helps us to see if we have kids that we need to maybe move around in our MTSS process. But one thing that I really want to make sure, this data should never be used to judge schools or teachers. These are flashlight data. They're not hammer data. And with that, I'll begin the presentation. So we are required by state law to give formative assessments, and the ones that we use at each grade level to meet those state regulations, which are now under Read to Succeed, and I'll talk about that in a minute, are DRC Beacon in kindergarten, MAP in grades 1 and 2, and then Mastery View predictive benchmarks. This company has changed their name 4 times since we have purchased them. So you'll often hear them talked about as Mastery Connect benchmarks, TE21. This is the name right now that they're going by. But when you hear teachers talk about benchmarks, they're referring to the Mastery View predictive benchmarks. So let's talk a little bit about each one of these so we have a clear understanding of the purpose and what we're doing with each of them. So DRC Beacon is a new test that the state is endorsing. DRC is probably a name you've heard before because they're the company that develops SC Ready and the EOCEPs. So honestly, we were very excited when they started talking about developing a formative assessment that we could use in the classrooms. So first, we're using it for kindergarten, and I want to talk just a brief minute about that. We have been functioning under the last 4 years the formative assessment proviso, which came about after COVID, saying we must test students 3 times a year with an approved formative assessment by the state. Now, the good news was we were already doing this for years before it became an actual proviso. Also good news was they gave us a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit of money to reimburse for partially the cost of the formative assessments, because I'm going to tell you, assessment development is a big business. We found out very late in May that the formative assessment proviso was not approved in the session. And we were like, well, what does this mean? It really wouldn't have changed a lot about what we were doing because we were still very ingrained with our formative assessments. But what the state decided to do is, with that proviso being eliminated, they said, we're going to function under Read to Succeed's Act and have the formative assessment component of Read to Succeed now be our law that we're following. Now, what that did that we were not doing is it forced us to have a formative assessment 3 times a year in kindergarten. I'll be very honest with you. Testing kindergartners makes my skin crawl. It's developmentally inappropriate. And when it comes down to even things like doing it computerized, that really, really makes my skin crawl. Kids don't have the dexterity to utilize computers at this age. I was in schools watching Beacon in the fall. It was difficult. It was very difficult to watch kids try to, I'll be really honest with you, I had one of the kids give me his computer. I had trouble dragging and dropping the answers. It's complex. I'm not a fan of it. We will do what we are required to do by state law. We will use the data with caution because it is a formative assessment. And it does give our kids some practice with the dexterity. So we just have to use that one very flashlight-like, if that makes sense. So we had to add that this year very hastily. DRC Beacon was a free option for us to use. The company is also working on developing assessments for grades K through 8, and we have 2 schools piloting right now. We have 1 elementary school and 1 middle school who volunteered to pilot, so we could kind of see if this would be a good fit for us as we reframe which formative assessments we'll use in the next year. So I don't have a lot of data because that is just a pilot at this point. So MAP. Now, MAP is really interesting, and just a bit of a history. We implemented online MAP in this district. We were the first district to use the online assessment from NWEA. I was pregnant with my child who just graduated from Clemson when we started using MAP. We have been a flagship MAP district for years. MAP is a really robust assessment. They have over 3.6 million scores in their norming study. That is a researcher's dream, to have a sample size that is that large. And why is that important? Because it gives me a lot of comfort knowing that their reliability and validity has been thoroughly vetted, and it's an assessment we can really trust. MAP is kind of interesting, and it's different than the benchmark because it uses something called a Roche unit. So Roche was start to see people falling asleep. Roche was a statistical professor who developed a way to measure kids in equal intervals as they took an assessment. The best thing I can give you to think about this as an example is if you measure your kid's height on a door frame in your house, you know that when they go from 2 feet to 3 feet, that's the same distance as when they go from 3 foot to 4 foot, right? So the Roche unit is a way to measure kids' growth. It's not confined by a grade level. It will measure kids' growth, and it is an excellent growth tool. We use this here for a couple of reasons. One is it's incredibly highly correlated to SC Ready, and it's also very highly correlated to our student progress metric, which is a very heavily weighted metric on the state report card. If you've ever heard your kids talk about MAP, you'll hear things like this. They showed me something I didn't know. Or teachers will say, I haven't taught that yet, that's not fair. That's actually the intent of it. One of the things we used to tell kids, well, you know what, if you're seeing questions you don't know, that means you're really, really smart. Because the test is adjusting, and just as it gets to a difficult level, it will adjust itself. But kids and teachers get a little frustrated, and I understand that. They want to do well on their assessments. Okay, so let's look at some MAP data. I had to think hard about how to present this to make it meaningful and the way to look at it. So we mentioned that MAP measures growth incredibly well with that Roche unit. So there are different ways you can measure growth. You can go fall to spring, you can go spring to spring, you can go fall to fall. So one thing we did for you all is we're looking at the percent of students who met their growth target from fall 23 to 24, and then 24 to 25. So what you'll see on this screen is that we have 4 grade levels that are higher than the previous year in the fall meeting growth. That's a good indicator to me. That's the kind of thing I go to Dr. Moore and go, ooh, we're looking good in these grade levels, right? Because that indicator will end up feeding into what we see on SC Ready. We have 2 that are lower and 1 that is equal, and this is for math. Now, you got to kind of give some context to that, because it's really hard to say, okay, well, is that percentage good when we see that that percentage of kids are meeting their growth target? So one thing MAP does that's really nice is they give us these charts that compare our local growth to the national growth. So what you see on the screen, those blue bars, are the growth in Richland 2 from fall to fall. The diamonds that you see on there are the expected growth that we should see based on that 3.6 million student norming study. So when you look at this, what you're going to see is that we are above the national growth in grades 2, 3, 6, and 8. We are equal with 4th grade, and 7th grade we're a tiny bit below, all right? So, which if you have a 7th grader, I have one right now, you'll understand. That's always an interesting grade level of student. But this gives me promise and gives me hope that we're seeing higher growth than we have seen in previous years in math. So if we do the same analysis with looking at the fall reading scores of MAP, what you're going to see is something a little different, and I was really excited when I put this together. We actually have higher growth in every single grade level between fall 23-24 and fall 24-25. I was excited, but I also was really glad to see this, because we do have a new ELA curriculum that is in place, and I think some of this, you see this natural bump as teachers start to really get a hold and really start to get that understanding of where we're going with that. Now, when we go and we look at the same chart, I don't know why somebody tested a 9th grader. I should have whited that out for you all. I'll fix that. But you will see that we're above the national average in growth that's expected for kids in each of our grade levels based on that really massive norming study. So those percentages are kind of exciting to look at, but it's not where the work is at. Where the work is at is one of the things we're showing here is we can put together and see what are the instructional areas of performance and which ones are the lowest by grade level. So the first thing you're going to do when you look at these is go, oh, there's a lot of similarities here. And that should make sense, because as a lot of those, especially in math, they're building blocks. It's Legos. So, you know, and these are actually the same categories that we have seen and we see statewide. So these are typically areas that we are struggling in and trying to improve in. And for us, seeing that triggers the work that the academics team then goes in as they provide support to teachers in the classroom. Okay, whew, take a deep breath for this one. So one of the other things that we do with MAP, and Mr. Rattery and I are actually starting this tomorrow, we're meeting with the principals to tell them what the targets are for the growth metric that the state has developed. Now, if I were to give you a full tutorial on the calculation of the growth metric, and Mr. Rattery and I do have a presentation to do that, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm not going to do that tonight. But I just kind of want to give you a gist of the complexity and the focus that we're having when we're looking at that MAP data. There are 4 pieces to the growth rating. I'm going to talk about 2 tonight because I would like you to see where we rank statewide with that. One of them is called an MAT, and it's the median annual target. So we're going to think about a race, all right? Dr. Franklin and I are both 4th graders in the state of South Carolina. Now, Dr. Franklin is your typical 4th grader, and we're going to run from one side of the room to the other because she has, it's not that far, Dr. Franklin, we'd be all right. Because she has got your typical movement of kids across the state as a 4th grader. My job is to keep up with Dr. Franklin. Because if I keep up with Dr. Franklin, then I've met my MAT, because I have grown as much as a typical 4th grader in the state of South Carolina. This is a binary metric for the report card. You get a 0 or you get a 1. So if I don't finish the cross line same time as Dr. Franklin, I get a 0. If I meet her at the finish line or I'm ahead of her, I get a 1, all right? This metric has a very small value in the growth rating because of the way they have developed it. But I would like you to see that on the recent report card, when you look at the district and the percent of kids that met their MATs, it was 47.9. The state is 47.7. So we are actually above the state on that. Here's the hard one. This is the AVT, and it's a relatively new metric. So this one is not seeing if I can run as fast as Dr. Franklin. what they're doing is they're taking Dr. Grant, who's already in the meets and exceeds, right? And they're seeing, even if I'm behind, I've got to eventually catch up to Dr. Grant, because they want every student in the state to be proficient, which is meets or exceeds, all right? And so this is the metric that they're using with this. This is a are you moving up metric. So when you're taking kids who are below meets and exceeds, they're seeing how fast you get them to proficiency. But here's the really hard part. For kids that are already meets and exceeds, you have to continue to move them. And I will tell you, if many of you have been teachers, this is one of the hardest parts, is moving those kids who are already high. This, what did I do? This part of the metric, whoops, went forward too. This part of the metric, you can get between 2 and 16 points. So this is where the money's at, as far as numbers and statistics. And this is the hardest one to meet. Okay, so those are two pieces of the new growth model. And we use that MAP data to go, okay, Mr. Dennis is expected to grow 16 points on MAP if he's going to meet his goals. Dr. Moore is expected to grow 6 points. You know, and so we actually sit down with the teams and we go through that so they can make sure. This has been a good challenge for us, because some of the challenge we have is moving those higher level kids. All right, so we talked about the Mastery Review benchmarks, which are called TE21 or Mastery Connect. This is a criterion reference metric, so it's a little bit different. We're not looking at growth. We're not looking at what percentile they are. What we're doing is saying, here are the standards kids have to learn in 4th grade math. How are you doing on having kids understand or have mastery of that content? Now, this is a really interesting metric. It's really not a metric of kids. This is a metric of instruction. And I have to tell you, it is the coolest thing to see Dr. Davis's and Mr. Newton's content specialists when they go into the schools to do benchmark reviews and they're going through it with teachers and they realize, okay, you guys are off pace. We've got to adjust the pacing guide because we have to get through all those standards before SE ready. And you watch them do that work. Or they say, hey, you know, you've got this one teacher who really didn't do well with fractions. Let's pair her up with somebody else who did well. Or let me come in, not me personally, the math contents folks, and teach a unit on fractions so you can kind of see maybe a better way to teach it so kids understand the concept. There is power in that. There is a lot of power in that because we're not only working on students, we're working on instruction. Okay. All right, I think I'm getting close to the end. Whew. All right. So when we get the benchmark data, we can also see the areas of focus that we need to work on. Although they're not titled the same, they are the same concepts that we're seeing on MAP. So this is really no surprise to us at all. You can see where we are with the areas that we need to focus on based on the fall benchmark data. Same with reading. Again, you're seeing that duplication of writing and informational text, which are always challenges for us. And you can see as well our science and where we need to work on that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Newton to talk about the instructional plan as we use it with our formative assessments. Here you go, Mr. Newton. You're welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair and distinguished board members. I won't be before you long. Things that we do to make sure that we stay on track with academic achievement. We continue to observe ELA science and math. Our observations allow us to monitor instructional quality, make sure that the curriculum is aligned, as well as identify areas for teacher growth. Additionally, we want to make sure that our teachers, additionally, we want to make sure that we're providing real-time insight into classroom practices that are actually having huge impacts on student achievement. We also conduct customized professional development. We do that so that we can tailor the professional development to meet the teacher's specific needs, as well as promote consistency across the classroom and ensure that they have the tools and the strategies necessary to improve outcomes. Our benchmark reviews, as Dr. Coleman mentioned, are very important to us. This allows us to monitor students' progress towards academic goals, identify learning gaps, and most importantly, make adjustments to instruction before the end of the year assessments. We also use the data to make data-driven decisions that's going to help our teachers, our school leaders, and ourselves. And lastly, we continue with our continuous improvement meetings. This is truly collaboration and reflection and accountability. We want to make sure that we're analyzing the data together, we're monitoring the goals, the action steps, and we're implementing targeted actions for ongoing school improvement. And so we do all these things. We have to make sure that we're consistent with it. And I think the biggest thing that comes out of this is just the communication, how we can support each other and how we can help each other. But these are some of the things that we're doing right now to make sure that we're moving forward.
And for secondary instruction, the things that we're working on now is leveraging PLCs and in-time coaching to analyze data and to adjust to our instruction. Some of our PLCs, some of the things that we work in collaboration with school teams is to adjust pacing, as well as to provide job-embedded professional learning so that our staff will be able to implement the curriculum with integrity. Secondly, one of the things that we noticed across the board in all of our content areas where we gave benchmark exams were there's a lot of reading, writing, and really academic language within each of those assessments. So across the board, really working with our teachers on how to use the academic language, particularly vocabulary, across all content areas, real time while they're instructing students, so that students, when they see that particular language on an assessment, they'll be able to identify with it as well as be able to answer the questions correctly. Thirdly, we want to plan collaborative, hands-on, and conceptually rich lessons. When we do our walkthroughs and observations, a lot of times what we see in our secondary classrooms is teachers' ability to release their students to engage in collaboration, to engage in hands-on activities, as well as to use the manipulatives to help solve problems within the curriculum. And so really encouraging teachers, it's okay to release our students, to allow them to productively struggle. Naturally, our teachers want to help when they see a child struggle. We all did it when we taught. And so, but the way that instruction is designed now, as well as learning is designed, that our students have to experience the curriculum. They got to be able to think through it and to be able to problem solve. And finally, really integrate literacy and reasoning and science through inquiry and real world applications to build their critical thinking skills. How do we think through an assessment?
Okay, with that, we'll turn it over to Dr. Moore and to you all for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Board members, I also just wanted to state, because Ms. Washington is not here, she was the board member that asked for the benchmark data. So I know she's probably watching and has questions, but we're excited to share this data with you and around the work that we are doing as we have continued to work on our instructional model. As Ms. Morrison said today, she and I had the privilege of being in one of our data meetings with Condor Elementary School, and it truly was an inspiring meeting. The depth of data analysis, but tying that data to improving instructional practices is what is moving our schools and why we had such excellent results on our SC our SC report card. And so with that, we'll open it up for discussion.
Board members?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Dennis?
I just want to say great job. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to stop looking. It was a great presentation. Great presentation, y'all. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate it. We let y'all out tonight. Okay, we're going to move to discussion policy, item 11.4, discussion policy IKADD, content and credit recovery. This agenda item in this section is a discussion on policy IKADD, content and credit recovery. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and for an encore presentation, Ms. Morrison, our Senior Chief of Academics, will discuss policy IKADD, content and credit recovery.
So I'm just going to start and really turn you over to Dr. Davis, who is well-equipped. He works directly with credit and content recovery in our high schools. It's really key to our graduation rate. It also plays into graduation quality, and it offers good opportunities for students. One thing, so tonight is just that initial discussion, sort of hearing where you are and what your thoughts are related to it, and then we can take a look at what changes we may need to make to the policy. This was last issued in 2021, so it has been a significant amount of time. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Davis to share some thoughts.
Good evening. Currently, our credit and content recovery policy and administrative rule, they're being implemented as intended. And so credit and content recovery, they both provide structured opportunities for students to regain academic credit after failing to meet course requirements without compromising instructional integrity, state regulations, or GPA calculations. And so these processes ensure students stay on track for graduation while upholding accountability standards. And so I just want to give you a brief highlight of each one of them. So credit recovery in its current practice right now, it's defined as a course-specific skill-based learning opportunity for students who have previously failed the course but have met seat time requirements. Again, I want to highlight they have met seat time requirements. It targets only the specific standards or skills not yet mastered. And some of the key aspects of this particular policy and rule are students must have earned a grade average between 50 and 59 in the course. And they cannot participate in content recovery with FAs, failures due to absences. They have to retake the full course in that aspect. So that kind of counts them out. But credit recovery courses are aligned to South Carolina state standards and facilitated by certified teachers, and we're required to do that. And some of the other key points of that is that some of the things they must have completed and taken the EOC exam in order to do credit recovery. And all of these things are in line with our policies, just to name a few without going into details for the sake of time. On the other side of that, we have our content recovery. And again, it's a preventative intervention for students that occurs real time while students are in class during the course of instruction. And some of those guidelines it's available for all secondary students, applies to major assessments in line with our policies, tests, essays, labs, and the like, and has to be completed within the original grading post and requires permission from parent and guardians and the like. Both of these within the school year are of course, no cost to our students. We do it free of charge. And then the things that I want to highlight too, the oversight and accountability, according to the policy, they are being administered as required. Certified staff, and we do provide professional training for our teachers to do this. And a lot of the schools are monitoring and maintaining this through Power School, particularly for our high school students. And so those are brief highlights of it, and I'd like to open the floor for questions if you have any.
Oh, Ms. Porter?
Yes, I just wanted to know if all of the core classes, are they all NCAA approved core classes? And if not, is that documented so that the parents is it easy for the parent to find out?
That's a very good question. So content for credit recovery is not, NCAA regulation does not apply for credit recovery courses. And so if you're doing credit recovery, it's not recognized by NCAA regulation. And when students sign up for credit recovery, their parents do have to sign a waiver, and our school counselors make them aware of that.
Okay, so that would mean that if this is a student that's attempting to get pulled in from a D1 college in sports, and they were not doing well in a course and had to do credit recovery, that would not suffice. They would need to take the class over again to get that credit.
They would need to retake the entire course over.
So my concern is making sure that the parent and the athlete or student athlete is aware of that, because that's hard to, if you don't do the research, it's hard for them to know that. And they might need to know that early on and not find out their junior or senior year.
So the good
Can I
news
add
is,
something to that?
yes, ma'am.
Someone who's worked in high school for over a decade, that's just the norm that parents and students know. That's not anything new. I mean, it may be more so for ninth graders, but students are on top of that as well as parents.
Because I know now we're having students take high school courses earlier and earlier, even our middle schoolers. So you may have a child who thinks that they're taking a course, i.e. math, in 8th grade that's gonna that will count as a core class for NCAA eligibility. However, they have an opportunity as an 8th grader to take that class again in 9th grade if they wanted it to be a higher grade. But if they make the bare minimum to pass, they might not think to take that chance, and it's an opportunity that they have, even if you took it early in middle school, that you can take it again. So I just want to make sure that our counselors and so forth are communicating those things to those students, so that they don't regret it later, that they didn't take the opportunity, because once that 9th grade is over, they don't have that opportunity again.
So it's been my practice, or my understanding, in most IGP meetings, that is communicated to parents that at least if you have a lower grade, particularly as it relates to GPA, grade point average, and I can tell from my personal child, I got a daughter that's doing the same thing right now, that if you score B in terms of competition in high school, because it really does count, that you very well may anticipate taking it over again because I want you to earn a higher grade, albeit it's at the honors track in the middle school. However, when you get to the high school, a B at the honors track still, if you're competitive, you're gonna want to take it over for sure, or C in that regard. Yes, ma'am, that's standard typically in most IGP meetings. With that.
The guidelines?
Yeah. Ma'am? So am I hearing you want to add that to the policy? I can look at that. Yes, ma'am.
Another place for them to read to get more information on that, because not all parents have that relationship where they're going with their child to these meetings and having these discussions. Not all kids have that guidance.
Okay.
And if it's in writing, if they're looking at it on their own and reading it, it may be helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We are updating the middle school course catalog, and so that would be an appropriate time to maybe place that there and leave the policy as is. Yes, ma'am. Any additional questions?
Question.
Ms. Williams?
Madam Chair. So with content recovery, with the grade being, the way it is, I know that teachers are told that grades need to be put in so many times a week and so many times for that quarter. But what happens if teachers wait to the last minute to put in grades and a parent doesn't realize that, before the 9 weeks ended, that the child was, able to retake a test or redo whatever for a major grade because it was a part of, it has to be within that quarter. What happens then?
So I just want to be clear. You're asking if a teacher waits to the last minute to put in a grade and then the grade is within. Typically, most schools, and I think when parents communicated their information to principals, I've known principals to work with the parents and the staff to provide additional time for that grade to be entered, or for teachers to grade that, or to do something real time. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what would be, I know it's communicated, but how can it be? Because I've gotten several calls from parents about, especially middle school parents who are complaining about, grades not being put in on time, and then their child didn't do well, but then it was too late, and then it just puts more pressure for this whole process. So what can go out as a district to reinforce this process with content recovery and the importance of making sure, this is why grades need to be on time and updated so that parents could know if their child needs to take retake a major exam or something like that.
So in our monthly, in our principal, middle school and high school principals meetings, these are things that we share, the communication piece with principals as it relates to, particularly, let's say middle schools in general, content recovery is something that you need to be communicating in the parent square. And for the most part, they do it, that it's in parent square, that here are the opportunities for content recovery. One of the things I could tell you that I've asked principals to do not just leave it up to the child to sign up for it. You need to have your teachers reaching out, being a little bit more proactive as it relates to, hey, your son or daughter is not doing well in a course, and let's contact them and be proactive. And so what I did in our last principals meeting, I did have that agreement with them that we would do that, because really and truly, by the time a student gets to the end of the 9 weeks, there should be few students who need to do grade recovery in a middle school if you did content recovery in the manner that it was attended. So we are monitoring that. I will tell you that this quarter, I'm going to begin starting out the quarters in it. I'm going to ask for those spreadsheets to see who attended content recovery and how did it have an impact, because I shouldn't be seeing 100 students at a middle school participating in grade recovery at the end of the quarter had it been completed within the 9 weeks. But I will tell you that it's something that we're looking at and how to refine it together as the middle school principals have asked me to.
Right, and it wasn't just for clarity, it wasn't mostly like on the parents' part, but more so for the teachers inputting the grades on time for the parents to do their part.
Okay.
So that's what it was most of.
All right, and that I can address that in my next.
Okay, all right. We will now move on to, item 11.5. Yes. Discussion model policy IJND, artificial intelligence and responsible use. This agenda item in this section is a discussion on model policy IJND, artificial intelligence and responsible use. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, we will have Mrs. Jennifer Morrison, our Senior Chief of Academics, but she will be joined by her backup singers of Mr. Mark Hutton, our Senior Chief of Operations, and Mr. Tommy Carter, who's on the base, and our Chief Information Technology Officer.
Thank you very much. And I will say co-singers on this. We actually have met as both a combination academics and operations team to review this model policy, because we do actually have a number of resources already in place in the district and have been having lots of conversations about AI, the strength of it, how we can use it, how we can build upon it, what are the danger areas, how can we not interfere, but how can we block some of those kinds of things. And so it was great when the South Carolina School Board Association put out a model policy. We have discussed this. We have not necessarily marked anything up at this time. I know we're just having the discussion tonight to see where the board's priorities and thoughts are, and then we can proceed from there with how we move on this. But for now, I think this is fairly general. A number of districts actually have not put policies in place in the past, but instead they'll have, like Greenville has had a position on AI. Now that the policy is out, I think more districts will be moving in this direction. We do actually have some resources and things around positions. We've already adopted a magic school for teachers in the district and a number of pieces, but we're very excited to hear what your thoughts are about this particular model policy.
Board members, I'll just say I'll probably have more after I attend the conference later. But board members, do you all have any questions, thoughts? Anybody at this time?
I'm curious to know what templates, if not any, have been provided for teachers on how to use to assess any work that uses AI, so that we're not making it seem as though we don't want you to use it, but maybe even what you would assess. Are there rubrics or anything like that that comes with Magic School that helps teachers guide students on how to use AI?
So I'm going to let Mr. Carter, and he's worked with our teams in the past to develop some of those position statements. We do know also that our teachers are active users of AI. Magic School is being used regularly by teachers across the district. But there are, and I know also that in our academics team, so previously our Division of Coaching and Professional Learning was one of technology integration, and Chuck Holland, as the director of that team, has really been working in supporting and providing professional learning about strong and appropriate use of AI in the classroom. I can certainly ask him to put together a board brief around that to inform you all about that. But I'm going to turn it to Mr. Carter to just talk about some of the work that's already happened.
Well, as far as templates go, I would just say that Magic School, we chose that because they do have the longest standing K-12 specific AI solution. It's designed for use by teachers and students, which is fairly unique. And it does contain a lot of professional development resources for teachers. And it's a very controlled environment that puts the teacher in control, so that students can work within a safe sort of walled garden, if you will. But that, I think, combined with the resources that Mr. Holland has put together, and Mr. O'Neill in innovation, we've done some research, put together some web resources. There's a website guidance they provided, and some documentation and training they provided. So I think it's a combined effort with all of the above, and we're looking to grow in that area, certainly.
Any more questions? Okay, all right. Okay, well, we will now move on. Thank you guys so much. We will now move on to 12.0, agenda items for the next meeting. Let's take a look at the draft agenda for December 9th, 2025, regularly scheduled board meeting. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, our next regularly scheduled board meeting is December 9th, 2025. The call to order will be at 5:30 p.m., followed by the welcome and pledge of allegiance. Next, we will move to the approval of the agenda, then go into executive session, where the board will receive receipt of legal advice, litigation update, student appeals, student admission request into the district's adult education program, employment recommendations and certified releases, proposed safety and security measures, personnel matter regarding the superintendent's contract, and release back to public session at 6:30 p.m. We will then move to the consent agenda, which will include approval of the consent agenda, minutes from the previous meeting, and classified employment releases and in-district transfers. Next, we will have the inspirational moment, followed by special recognition, which will include recognizing national award recipients. We'll then move to public participation, voting on executive session items of student appeals, student admission request into the district's adult education program, employment recommendations and certified releases, and as needed for items discussed in executive session. We'll then move to unfinished business, action requested. The board will look at policy revision proposal, policy KF, community use of school facilities. This will be the second reading. The 2026 board meeting schedule and personnel matter regarding the superintendent's contract. We'll then move to new business, no action requested. The board will report on the board self-evaluation summary. You'll receive the financial auditor's report. Next, we'll have the budget timeline for the 2026-2027 general fund budget. And last but not least, under new business, we'll have safety and security committee updates. We'll then go to reviewing the draft agenda for the January 13th, 2026 regularly scheduled board meeting, followed by our if needed items of public participation, executive session, voting on executive session, conclude with board and superintendent comments, and then adjournment.
Okay, so I know that we have one item, we already have it on there for, I believe it's the proposed safety and security measures at 4.6. So we were not going to have 11.4, so that one actually will be removed because it actually is for, Ms. Porter?
I was going to say, if anything, it can still be done, but move to executive session.
Okay, as a part of that, right?
Mhm.
Because it'll be a part of the proposed safety and security measures?
Right.
Okay.
So,
I don't know if we need a separate line
So we'll
item from
delete
it.
that.
Yeah, so we'll remove that. Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, board members, are there any other revisions or additions that you would like to make, for voting items, just items of discussion for the next meeting agenda or future agenda? Okay, so we're trying to, tonight was a little bit longer because we're trying to make sure that December is lighter and you can spend more time with your families. So, sorry about tonight, but we gotta, do the hard things so we can do the easier things in December and have like holiday cheer. All right, well, that looks like we are now at board member and superintendent comments. And, yes, sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda. I was going to say holiday wishes, but that's incorrect. Not holiday wishes. Yes. I think we're going to be here for Thanksgiving, the Tuesday before. Okay, all right, so we'll just start with Ms. Williams. We'll start with you.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Mrs. Kelsey Carter for your leadership, the military Order of the Purple Heart and Blythewood Middle School course for spreading the joy through your service stories and talents. I had the pleasure over the last month in participating in several activities around the district. Thank you to Chef Eris Wrightson and culinary students at Richland Northeast High School for hosting us for lunch to experience the belonging of CTE students. We know that data shows that CTE students tend to have a higher graduation rates, increased employability, and improved academic achievement and higher engagement, and more satisfied with their educational experiences. I thoroughly enjoyed attending 50 Shades of Pink Breast Cancer Awareness, SCASPA's Midlands Regional Advocacy Meeting, Buet 2. And I really want to shout out how much I appreciate the inclusivity of those who planned Buet 2 and having a sensory room for those who needed it. I actually had the pleasure of going myself to relax and unwind and then rejoin the festivities with all of the people. So again, shout out to being inclusive for the sensory room. And also congratulations to the Order of the Flame newly inducted members. And again, happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans and thank you for your service. Last, I want the district staff to know that your efforts do not go unnoticed with the sacrifices that you make to take a time away from your families and to be here with us during board meetings and other district events. So thank you so much for your sacrifices. And happy early Thanksgiving, and take time to unplug, really unplug, and spend time with the ones you love. Thank you and have a great night. Unplug.
Sorry, they were just telling me that we do not. You can't give your Thanksgiving wishes now. Okay, all right. Ms. Porter.
Thank you. I echo lots of your sentiments, Ms. Williams. But I just want to say Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for those who came, the members of the Purple Heart group. And I'm so appreciative of our veterans of all branches, but especially to our Army veterans. As a military child born in Fort Irwin, I have to say that, and I wanted to say thanks to my father, who's always stated how much he had wished he was called to war. He would say I spent a large portion of my life training and committed to serve my country. And I never understood it then, like, why would he wish to go to war when I was younger? But as I've aged, I see the amount of pride our service members have in protecting our country, and I see why. I would just like to state that whether you went to war or not, you are appreciated. You serve our ROTC programs, you mentor, you support our community, and you are valued. Happy Veterans Day.
I see your hand on the buzzer. Mr. Trapp.
Well, I assumed we were doing it in order. Just a couple of things. I do want to express my gratitude to all those that have served, all the veterans in whatever branch of the military you served in. As a younger man, I can honestly say, and I'm somewhat ashamed to say, that I just didn't appreciate what all the veterans have done in the course of my life. I was born about 20 years after World War II, and a lot of my father's uncles and them served in World War II, and I really wish I had gotten to know a little bit more about what they did in the service. It just, but it was a different time, I guess, back then. But I really appreciate today all the veterans that are willing to serve and all those that have served. It was my opportunity last week to spend an evening out at a Midlands Tech. We had an event out there, and I was able to spend a little time speaking with Dr. Little, the president of Midlands Tech, and he told me some things he had spoke to our superintendent about, some things that we should work on, and I'm going to bring that up at some point in time with her because I liked what he said. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to do some more things with Midlands Tech and get some of our students a little better prepared for careers. And anyway, I hope everybody has a great, I know one member of my immediate family is looking very forward to some days off. Apparently, our teachers and their assistants get some time off of Thanksgiving. I know she's looking forward to that. So to all our teachers and all those that work here at the district, we appreciate everything you do and hope you have a great holiday coming up.
Mr. Dennis.
All right, so we're gonna make this quick. I want to thank everyone that presented tonight. Thank you very much for Blythewood Middle School. Cool thing about Blythewood Middle School, I got to witness that twice. Because they did a Veterans Day assembly, and let me tell you, every year that I've gone, my son went to Blythewood Middle, now my daughter goes there, so I end up getting that invitation very early, and every year it gets better and better and better. So I can't say enough about Blythewood Middle. It was just amazing. I wanted to say thank you to all the veterans out there. As a veteran myself, today resonates because a lot of us, we had friends that didn't come home with us at certain times during deployments and other things, and then they get taken on a little bit later in life from other instances from earlier in their military career. So it means a lot. Veterans Day means a lot. But Veterans Day also, there's one part of Veterans Day to me that is very special, and it's the fact that I had 2 military children. And that's one of the things that drove me through my career, knowing that I had those kids later on in my career. And I just want to say thank you to not only the veterans out there, but thank you to the spouses and to the children, because y'all just have to roll with it, and it's very hard. And hopefully y'all will come out and witness this weekend's Veterans Day celebration. And last, I just wanted to say to the public out there, please, when you're driving through school zones, please slow down. When you are passing school buses, don't do that. And when we have people in the crosswalk, watch them, because that is our kids out there. That's our future. And if we are rushing and we don't pay attention to those things, one of these kids is going to get hurt. And I'm just not for it. And if the cop puts you in handcuffs, you probably should have left earlier and not have rushed. All right? So that's all I got to say about that. But thank you, everybody.
Dr. Elkinscott.
Yes, first want to say Happy Veterans Day to our veterans, and also to Richland Northeast Culinary Arts students. Thank you so very much for the delicious meal that you guys prepared for the school board members, and especially those collard greens that you guys have sworn that you're not going to give us the secret to that, but I know you will. I know you'll give in. So thank you so much for the delicious meal. And also would like to say thank you to Ms. Kim Hardy of Hardy Hands Foundation for allowing me to be a part of her speaking engagement. As you know, November is Epilepsy Month. So thank you for Kim and her leadership in providing this opportunity. But I also want to say thank you to Don McAdams, because in July of 2025, Richland 2 provided training to every single employee, from teachers to bus drivers, cafeteria staff to administrators, now have received emergency seizure response training, because we know that seizures don't always happen in a nurse's office. It could be in the hallway, it can be in the classroom, it can even be in the playground. So thank you so much to Dawn McAdams and her team for providing that. Also, you know, it's always time for me to celebrate one of our schools. So I am decked out in my e-school outfit today. So Richland 2 Virtual School, under the magnificent leadership of Dr. Emily Manigault and her amazing tight-knit team. Richland 2 Virtual School continues to serve as a powerful example of how our district meets students where they are, academically, socially, and emotionally. The program provides a quality, personalized learning experience for students who may face challenges in a traditional school setting, offering a soft place to land and a strong foundation to grow. Whether supporting students, managing medical needs, young mothers balancing school and family, those overcoming bullying, or students focusing on mental health, the virtual school ensures that every student have access to meaningful educational opportunities. Now, the e-school and the virtual school actually have three key components. One, the virtual. Two, celebrating 25 years of providing middle and high school students with opportunities for remediation and acceleration. Pathways to promotion, which gives students a second chance. Let me say that again. Pathway to promotion gives students a second chance to continue their education after disciplinary setbacks. And finally, the e-school program, now in its 5th year, created in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and continually to serve families seeking flexible virtual learning options. The program is proud to serve over 1,500 students on average, and continues to look for opportunities to support families and students. Richland, too, is proud of the growth and impact of these programs, and we remain committed to expanding and evolving our virtual offerings to meet the diverse needs of our students and families across the district. Thank you to our virtual superstars. And on another hand, you guys are aware that my brother passed a few months ago. So I do want to say happy first heavenly birthday to my brother, who would have turned 65. Thank you.
Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we have all said, today, as a nation, we pause to honor our veterans, a time to express our deepest gratitude to the brave men and women who have served and continue to serve in the United States Armed Forces. So I want to share a photo of someone that you may recognize, a very good-looking young Lieutenant Colonel Kim Moore. Yes, that was my last official photo for the United States Army. And so why do I share this photo? Because this is a reminder that service and sacrifice are personal to me and to so many families across Richland, too. I am the very proud mother of a 4th-generation Army soldier who's currently stationed in Korea. I am 3rd-generation Army, my father 2nd, and my grandfather was 1st. And so service in my family is very important, and it's something that we take very seriously. So to our military families, and thank you, Mr. Dennis, for recognizing our military spouses and our military children, of which we have 2 military children on this board, Dr. Scott and Ms. Porter, our military children. Children do not ask to serve, they are voluntold because they have to move with their parents. Last week, I had the privilege of joining Blythewood Middle School with Mr. Dennis for their Veterans Day celebration. And Mr. Dennis delivered an inspiring address to the students and to the veterans there. The students and staff did an outstanding job creating a program that truly honored our veterans and reflected the values of belonging and respect that defined our district. One of the special moments in that event was recognizing a Purple Heart recipient. This grandfather drives 2 hours to come to Blythewood for the event because his twin grandsons attend that school. And what was so heart-moving for us, and Mr. Dennis, we both got a little choked up, was the students stood up and clapped for this gentleman, recognizing his service and the commitment being wounded in battle. It was truly an outstanding event. I also want to congratulate the Richland Northeast High School Navy JROTC for earning the Distinguished Unit with Academic Honors for the 4th consecutive year. Now, why is this so important? Because this is the highest honor of a JROTC program. This makes them the top program in the state of South Carolina. Let me say that again. It makes them the top program in the state of South Carolina. This recognition reflects the hard work, discipline, and leadership of our cadets and instructors. So congratulations to the Cavaliers on this outstanding achievement. Richland, too, proudly has the highest percentage of military-connected families in South Carolina. That distinction is more than a number. It speaks to who we are. We are a community built on service, resilience, and commitment. Families move into our district, and they know that we are going to take care of their children. So I want to share with you some comments from a mother. Her name is Monica Allender, who moved in, and how she feels about what we do every day for her children and the life that they are building here in Columbia after leaving Quantico.
He's loving school. We went from him begging me to homeschool him, and I was doing the research on homeschool. And after taking him into Lonnie B, he was at ease within 3 days. She's just in everything she's capable of being in and spreading her time. Pretty thin, which is great. And looking forward to, I think she was saying the other day, USC, is that Gamecocks? I'm not, yeah. So she's already like diving into all of it and wanting to do college here afterwards.
And so we share that because we want parents to know what I believe, and I know every board member here believes. Richland, too, should be a parent's first choice because we are the best choice for their students to receive an excellent education. So to every veteran, active duty service member, and military family in our district, from the bottom of our heart, we want to say thank you. Your example of strength and sacrifice inspires us all. So as we move through November, I want to remind everyone about the district-wide food collection drive. Donations can be dropped off at any of our local schools and here at the district office. With students out for a full week over Thanksgiving break, which is 9 days, we want to make sure our food pantries are stocked so that every child in Richland, too, has the support they need while schools are closed. So thank you to everyone who continues to give so generously. We truly do appreciate it. Finally, I'm excited to share some wonderful news from this year's state report cards. Now, the board is already very much aware of this, but I want everybody else in Richland County to know what's going on in Richland too, because we are moving in a very, very positive direction. This year, 5 schools moved off of the underperforming list. Yes, that is awesome. Even more exciting, 18 schools improved their overall rating, and we have no unsatisfactory schools in our district. 91% of our schools are rated excellent, good, and average, which is a 22% increase from last year. These results reflect the incredible work of our teachers, staff, students, families, principals, assistant principals, district staff. Together, we're building a district where every student has the opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed. And the best part is that this is just the beginning. Our focus, dedication, and teamwork mean that even greater success is ahead for every Richland 2 student, where the core values of continuous improvement is lived daily. In Richland 2, we are purpose-driven, so our students will be future-ready. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Okay, one, I want to thank everybody that watched online and all of you who are here in the room with us late this evening. We appreciate it. Kelsey Carter for all the hard work that she does with being in the Purple Heart School District, and for the Purple Heart Group, for Blythewood, for that chorus. Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Arnie. The cuisine was fantastic, and thank you, Dr. Scott, for coordinating that. To administration, thank you so much for the workshop that you all did on last week. There were several things that I noticed that were really, really awesome, even in the setup, where it was board member administration, and I loved it so much because we get to work together. I just want to say thank y'all, because that was absolutely phenomenal, and yes, I look forward to more of that. I think Nancy even said she might have had fun. I thought she said that. It was a whisper, but I thought she said she had fun. So a win is a win. And then also to my board members, I want to say thank you. A lot of times the public doesn't always know that we have other lives, we have families, we have other jobs, other community things that we're a part of. But I just want y'all to know that they actually call and say, make sure that we're covering as many events as we possibly can. And it's a big district. Everybody's got events, but we are absolutely trying to make sure that there's representation at every event and community thing. So I want to say thank you to the board members. Now, here's a little thing that I'm going to say. Now, my military child story might sound a little bit like Days of Our Lives, but my dad was actually in the military before I was born. He got drafted. Yes, he got drafted. At the time, he was going by Cool Breeze. And so, yes, he was very, very cool. Him and my mom broke up in high school because he was trying to be Cool Breeze, but he ended up getting drafted and going, and right when they were going to send him to Vietnam, they took him off the plane and sent him to an island where he said there was nobody there, female, except for a dog. And a man started talking to him about Christianity and life, and he ended up going to Honolulu, is where they put him next. Look at him, so blessed. And yeah, Cool Breeze went to Honolulu, but those words stuck with him, gave him a lot of time to think, and he wrote my mom letters, and they ended up getting eloped in Honolulu. And that's how I got to be where I am. And then after that, he became a pastor. So thankful to the military for getting Cool Breeze in line. So, well, with that, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and thank you all so much for being here with us late tonight. We look forward to more work and fun, and seeing you all in December. All right, with that, if there's no other objections, we're adjourned.